Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into one of life's most, uncomfortable truths, based on the work of the philosopher Alain de Botton, and it all starts with a title that's designed to make you flinch a little bit: Why You Will Marry the Wrong Person. So, let's unpack what that really means.
Okay, so a lot of us, if we're being honest, feel some private anger or frustration about our love lives. And you might think that angry people are just pessimists, but de Botton argues it's the complete opposite. You scratch the surface of anyone who's regularly angry, and what you find is a wild, raging optimist. I mean, think about the rage you feel when you can't find your keys, right? Or you're stuck in traffic. That anger doesn't come from pessimism. It comes from a reckless, beautiful faith in a world where keys are never lost and traffic just flows. It's that hope for perfection that turbocharges our rage when reality inevitably lets us down.
So our goal in this explainer is a bit strange. It's not to find some secret to perfect happiness. It's actually to turn that hot, hopeful rage into a calmer, more manageable sadness. And I know that sounds like a downer, but why? Well, according to this philosophy, shifting from rage to grief is a huge sign of psychological progress. It's about accepting reality for what it is instead of being furious that it isn't something else.
To get there, we're going to walk through 3 big ideas from this way of thinking. Think of it like a podcast summary. We're going to look at why we choose our partners, what love really is, and what the true goal of a relationship ought to be. And then we'll wrap it all up with a final thought to chew on. All right, first up, the single biggest reason we are basically destined to choose the wrong person is that we simply don't know ourselves. We are, to a shocking degree, complete strangers to our own minds, especially the messy, difficult parts.
And what makes it worse is that there's this conspiracy of silence that keeps us in the dark about our own flaws. I mean, our friends, they're not going to tell us. Come on. They just want to have a nice dinner, not an intervention. Our parents, well, they know, but they love us too much to be brutally honest. And our ex-lovers? Oh man, they have a PhD in everything that's wrong with us, but they have zero incentive to share that feedback. They're just gone. So we walk around with these huge, glaring blind spots.
And this lack of self-knowledge is just amplified by a really modern problem. But to understand it, we need to kind of redefine a word we all think we know. So in this view, addiction isn't just about drugs or alcohol. It's about any behavior you use to avoid being alone with your own difficult thoughts and feelings. Which means you can be addicted to work, to your phone, to just constant distraction. And this is a total disaster for relationships, because if you can't even stand to be with yourself, how can you possibly relate to another person in a real way? So, here's the crucial point. When we go out looking for a partner, we tell ourselves we're looking for happiness. But we're not really. What we are unconsciously searching for is what feels familiar. And since our first blueprint for love in childhood was probably mixed up with some kind of suffering, feeling misunderstood or controlled or disappointed, we are often drawn to people who can make us suffer in those same familiar ways. The genuinely nice person, they can feel kind of boring because they don't fit that unconscious template of what love is supposed to feel like.
Okay, let's move on to our second takeaway. Our culture sells us this very dangerous lie that love is an instinct. You just follow your feelings and it all works out. But what if love isn't an instinct you're born with? What if it's a skill you actually have to learn?
This kind of lays out the two sides of the coin. We all start out as experts in being loved. That's the passive stuff from childhood, where someone just takes care of you. We mistakenly think that's what adult love is going to be like. But real partnership? That requires learning the other side, loving. And that is an active skill. It's the hard work of giving someone the benefit of the doubt, of applying a generous filter to their often very annoying behavior.
And because we haven't learned the skill of loving, we just fall into these terrible communication cycles. Deep down, we might feel vulnerable and just want to ask, hey, do you still care about me? But that feels terrifying. So what do we do instead? We get procedural. You're 10 minutes late. Or, did you remember to take out the trash? Or we go the other way. We become avoidant and pretend we don't need anything at all. And in both cases, the real need gets totally buried, and the connection just fizzles.
The only way out of this cycle is to realize that to make love work, you have to become a good teacher. And what is teaching? It's just the skill of getting an idea from your head into someone else's head, without humiliating them. We are often terrible teachers in relationships because we try to teach when we're scared or angry. But nobody learns anything when they're being made to feel small. A good relationship requires calmly and kindly teaching our partner who we are and what we need.
This brings us to our third and final takeaway. And honestly, this one might be the most freeing of them all. The goal of a relationship is not to find a perfect person. The goal is to find someone who is good enough.
You know, the psychoanalyst Melanie Klein noticed that little kids split their parents into a good mommy and a bad mommy. They can't quite grasp that the person who gives them comfort is the exact same person who frustrates them. A lot of us are still doing this as adults. We start with idealization. This person is perfect. And then, when they inevitably disappoint us, we flip to denigration. This person is awful. Both are just equally immature ways of seeing another person.
So, what is psychological maturity? It's not about your age. It is the ability to stop splitting. It's being able to hold two contradictory ideas in your head at the same time, that the person you love is a confusing and sometimes infuriating mix of wonderful and difficult. True adulthood is being able to love them and be annoyed by them, sometimes in the exact same moment, and just tolerating that tension.
And this really presents us with a very stark choice. You can have perfection, or you can have company. You absolutely cannot have both. If you demand a flawless partner, you are going to end up alone. Because to be in a relationship with another human being is to negotiate imperfection in them and in yourself every single day.
And this just completely reframes one of our most treasured romantic ideas. We think we have to go out and find someone who's compatible. But the truth is, nobody is perfectly compatible. Compatibility isn't something you find, it's something you build. It is the hard-won achievement of two imperfect people generously compromising and bending to make room for one another over a very long time. And that leads us to our final thought for today. This one comes from the wonderfully gloomy 19th century Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, and it's a really powerful idea about the very nature of choice. Now, Kierkegaard's point here is that regret is not a sign that you made the wrong choice. Regret is a non-negotiable, baked-in part of any major life decision. You're human. Every path you take means you have to close the door on other paths. So don't beat yourself up for feeling regret. It's just the price of being alive and having to choose it all. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If some form of regret is just part of the deal, and if perfection is an illusion that only leads to loneliness, how might that change the way you see things? How might you look back at the imperfections in your own relationships and in yourself with a little more kindness, a bit more sadness instead of rage, and a whole lot more generosity? Thanks for watching.